Team makes about 9 or 10 threes per game. And they run some false motion to get into their initial actions, but Kansas already switching, and Keontae George picks his dribble up, gets in a little bit of trouble to start.
And those three guards you talked about off the top of the show, any one of them can go for 25 in any game, but a turnover on the first possession for the Bears. DaJuan Harris Jr. the extra pass, Jalen Wilson the extra pass, and as it turns out, one pass too many for KU. Today's starting lineups are brought to you by Degree. This team, Baylor, 2 years removed from winning the national championship. And, of course, guys like Thamba, Flagler, Pryor were a part of that team. A very special freshman with the ball right now in Keontae George.
Well, Keontae George, since January, he's averaging over 17 points per game. Threw it away on that one. He's been picking up his dribble a little too quickly against this Kansas pressure. And Kevin McCullough, an outstanding defender, has been guarding Flagler to start off the game.
Grady Dick with the baseline drive, and Kansas scores first.
Grady Dick is having a great year, and you can see in the last 3 or 4 games, really starting to become more aggressive driving the ball.
The drive at the other end, and it'll fall for Adam Flagler. The transfer from Presbyterian, 1 year there, now 3 years with the Baylor, just having a sensational run in Waco.
And one thing you can't do, you've got to make him use that screen. You cannot let him turn down ball screens for a straight line drive to the rim.
The first meeting between these two a few weeks ago at Waco, Baylor got out to a 20-7 lead, won 75-69. As Dick misses the three, and Jay, they forced turnovers, and they really took advantage of Kansas on the offensive glass.
Well, that was the issue. Turnovers and offensive rebounding. This Baylor team is one of the better offensive rebounding teams in the country. They get about 37% of their own misses. And the second shots and scoring off turnovers, that was the difference in the game for Baylor to get the win in Waco.
2 minutes in, tied at 2.
Baylor's going to run some false motion to get into their initial set, but they want to get some switches and then attack those switches. And this is one of them. Now KJ Adams on Pryor.
LJ Pryor hit 5 threes all in the first half against Kansas in the win down in Waco, but he misses the short jumper here.
And that's a good job by Adams. Forced the tough 2.
Adams a little frustrated he couldn't finish, but he is going to the free throw line for the Hall of Famer Bill Self, who, like Scott Drew, is in his 20th season as the coach at his institution. 2-time national champion. Scott Drew and Baylor winning the national championship 2 years ago. Arguably, maybe not even arguably, Jay, the greatest rebuilding job, considering where the Baylor program was 20 years ago and where he's taken it to now.
Yeah, I thought the best rebuild before Scott Drew and Baylor was probably Jim Calhoun at UConn. You know, taking a program from, I don't want to say nothing, but to heights unimagined. But that doesn't compare to what Scott Drew's done at Baylor. And Scott Drew's got 8 wins against Kansas, which that doesn't sound like a big number until you look at what everybody else has done against Kansas.
Well, and Baylor has 9, and he's got 8 of them. Baylor's only 9-35 all time against Kansas, but 5-5 in the last 10.
Anytime Kansas switches, they have to switch up to take something away. And so far, the switching has helped, and Baylor's throwing the ball away. But at least Baylor's throwing it out of bounds. They're not coughing it up to let a live ball turnover to let Kansas take it the other way.
Boy, and I'll tell you, both coaches are doing a lot of pacing early. Just another example of how meaningful this game is. Bill Self talked about it on game day with you guys this morning about this rivalry.
At least they're getting their steps in.
Off the fingertips of Adams, it looked like, but no, it'll stay at this end with the Jayhawks.
Kansas going a little 4-round-1, trying to isolate KJ Adams in the post. He just moves his defender up the lane. They throw over the top.
Wilson averaging better than 20 a game. Misses the 3. And the rebound for Jalen Bridges, the transfer from West Virginia.
Bridges probably the best cutter on this Baylor team, and he moves very well without the ball and presents himself for openings.
Boy, a tough one for Flagler, who was so instrumental in a Baylor win over TCU earlier this week. He scored 16 consecutive points for them late in the game.
Those last 3 games, he's averaging 20, and he's shooting 50% from the field.
McCullough gives it up. Adams corrals it, and nobody guards him with predictable results.
Can't get caught up with who you're guarding. You have to guard the ball. Cardinal sin in basketball: never leave the basketball.
A guy who averaged 5 minutes per game, 1 point per game last year. Another drive and finish for Flagler.
And a nice job by Bridges to set a little screen there on his own man so he couldn't help on that drive. But that's another middle drive down the lane line. Flagler able to turn the screen down. McCullough's got to send him to the screen. That's the second time that Baylor's been able to turn the screen down. And Flagler just can't leave the ball there. Just a mental mistake defensively.
Adam Flagler's got all 7 in the early going for the Bears, who lead by 1.
Well, each of George, Cryer, and Flagler can put up points in a hurry, and they take turns. You know, the last time these two teams played, it was L.J. Cryer. He had 22 or 23. He had 15 in the first half.
Grady Dick knocks down a 3. 43% from beyond the arc on the season. And it's out of bounds to Kansas after George lost it in transition. A good start here at the Fog with the Jayhawks up by 2.
The ball, Grady Dick. You know, he's such a great shooter. Shoots about 43% for 3. His last 3 games averaging about 18 points per game, coming off a 26-point effort against Oklahoma State. And right now, Keontae George just trying to get his legs under him in a difficult environment in which to play. And right now, Baylor going to a 2-3 zone, and Jonathan Tchamwa-Tchatchoua into the game. It's great to see him on the floor.
Missed almost a year. Nice feed inside. Wilson can't finish it for Kansas, but they get it back. Tchamwa-Tchatchoua in his 5th game back for Baylor after tearing multiple ligaments in his knee, having nerve issue in his lower leg, and they weren't sure he was going to come back this year. But Scott, you told us before the game, around about December, they started saying, boy, he's looking pretty good. He's working out a lot, and what a boost it is to their Final Four hopes to get him back for the stretch run.
Well, especially on the defensive end, because he's a great ball screen defender.
Wilson just a little bit short. The rebound down to Bridges.
And one thing that Tchamwa-Tchatchoua can really do is run the floor. He's not quite athletically what he was, especially laterally, but he is still a big boost to this team with his energy, his rebounding, and his defense.
Cryer up top with Adams on it. Again, Kansas switching just about everything. Cryer tries to go by him and gets it to go. These 3 guards, the best trio in the nation?
No question on the offensive end. I think defensively they're not quite as proficient. You know, that's really the difference between Kansas and Baylor. Baylor's the better offensive team, I believe. They have more options to score and they can really shoot it. But Kansas better defensively.
With the likes of McCullough, Wilson, Harris, among others. Dick with a turnaround. Tchamwa-Tchatchoua down with a rebound.
But thus far, even though that, you know, when Cryer gets KJ Adams on him, he's been driving him. Now Flagler's going to do the same thing. They're getting him to take 2s. Now that was an easy 2. Cryer's was a tough 2. But what you really want to do against this team is guard that 3-point line, because they can go crazy from 3 on you.
Right now, as well, they got to keep Flagler from getting to the rim. He's got 9 points, keeps driving to the basket. Adams around Tchamwa-Tchatchoua, and an and-one opportunity.
KJ Adams has played very well of late. His last 3 games, he's shooting 15 of 22 from the field. He had 15 points against Oklahoma State. He's such a powerful athlete and really a mismatch at the 5 spot. He's about 6'5" tall, but when he leaves the floor, he's up around 10'5".
And he puts Kansas back on top. He'll sit down now as freshman Ernest Udeh Jr. from Orlando comes in. Kansas at times this year has not gotten very much from the bench. You'll see Udeh, you'll see Yesufu, you'll see Pettiford, but they really rely on their 5 starters. And Udeh, to be fair, has had some very good games lately.
Very good games. Yeah. Last 2 games, he's averaging about 15 minutes a game off the bench, and he's very good defensively.
Out of bounds, still Baylor ball.
You know, Dan, your point about trying to keep Flagler and Cryer from getting to the basket is a good one. You want to try to do that, but not at the expense of giving them three-point shots.
Right.
That's sort of the issue. It's kind of like when Alabama played Auburn last week. I mean, you got the three-point line is what really scares you with this Baylor team.
As you said, Baylor the #1 team offensively in the nation per KenPom, just ahead of the likes of Gonzaga, Iowa, Houston, and some others. They can really score. Cryer for three.
And that came off the offensive rebound. You know, Jalen Bridges grabs the offensive rebound. They kick it out, make one pass. All of a sudden they have a step-in three. And that's one of the things that happened to Kansas in Waco. You allow this team second shots, and a lot of them are long rebounds. You know, they're going to hurt you from three.
McCullough with a full head of steam. The pass a little behind Uday, but he gathers and finishes.
Boy, what a catch by Ernest Uday. He's got great hands. A crazy long wingspan, and defensively, he gets a lot of deflections and actually a lot of steals.
Chachua guarded by Harris. Going to try to back him down. Harris knocks it away, but he's called for the foul. Harris is first. He sits. Wilson sits as well. Yesufu and Pettiford both into the game for Kansas. Caleb Lohner, the transfer from BYU, is in the game for the first time for Baylor. Flagler off the inbounds. Air ball and a pretty good look from a corner three.
Baylor's so good getting it back to the inbounds man who's always ready to shoot it. You come in for that little handoff or pitch back, that can be really difficult to guard.
A three from the other corner won't go for Cryer. A collision as two Jayhawks go flying. Yesufu and Grady Dick collided with one another, and the Bears take advantage.
And whether it's off two guys colliding, whatever it is, offensive rebounds have led to 2 threes, and those are step-in shots.
Flagler's got 9, Cryer's got 8. They've got all 17 for the Bears. Dick from the corner. Can't hit the three, and here come the Bears in transition.
Well, you go for a steal, you'd better get it, because you're going to get punished like that when you don't. Yep. Grady Dick gambling. Misses, and all of a sudden there's a wide open three, and Phil Self talking to him. That is not a chance you want to take in transition.
The Baylor guards are clicking early.
Have to close out to them. You can't lead them, cannot help, and these offensive rebounds are the ones that are leading to the threes.
Holly Rowe was very close to what I'm sure was a very animated Kansas huddle.
Animated is a great word for that. Bill Self was challenging his players, saying their guards are so much better than us right now. He wants them to focus on playing defense. He's like, where is our pride? Where is our pride? He is challenging this team to step up and start taking away the passing lanes, the lanes into the paint. He is so mad about how they're playing defense, and we'll see if his team responds right now. But I would say animated / challenging was the thing with that huddle.
Well, it's so hard to play defense after you give up an offensive rebound. You know, you're rebounding and thinking about taking the ball the other way, and all of a sudden you don't get it, and then you got to scramble to find people. And Baylor's done a great job of finding the open shooter, and it's been L.J. Cryer after an offensive rebound. And those are step-in threes, and those are really hard to defend.
Jonathan Chachua just picked up his second foul. He's gone to the bench. But Flo Thamba is back in. With Chachua being healthy again, the Baylor rotation is so consistent and so tight. Scott Drew knows who he can go to, knows who he wants to go to almost every minute of the game.
And you're bringing experience and athleticism off the bench and a tremendous amount of energy with Jonathan Chachua.
I don't know if you believe that peaking at the right time is a thing, but if it is, Baylor looks like they're peaking at the right time. They are playing their best basketball of the season in recent weeks.
And give Ernest Uday Jr. credit there. He blocked that shot, got a piece of it with that length. And he is mobile and really active with those long arms. It's great hands. Watch how he comes over from the weak side, got a piece of it with that left arm, and then stayed in there and battled, kept it alive. If it weren't for Uday keeping it alive, there's no way that Wilson could have gotten to that ball.
Remember a few weeks ago when Kansas was playing Kentucky, Zuby Ejiofor was the first big off the bench, but he hurt his foot in that game. So Bill Self went to Ernest Uday Jr., and he played great and has really had a bigger role ever since.
Really starting to emerge. And now Kansas isn't taking a dip when they go to the bench.
And we have a foul away from the ball is the signal from John Higgins. That was something going on underneath. I think that
was Keontae George on the. Oh, didn't he foul him on the shot?
No, they gave it to Lohner.
Oh, they gave it to Lohner.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So Lohner sits. And some of the Kansas players.
Yeah, they thought it was on the shot.
Free throws, but yeah, the foul was not on the shot attempt. So KU will inbound.
Baylor, they're just trying to make everything go out to the short side of the floor and taken away underneath. And that's really good defense on out of bounds underneath.
Yesufu to Pettiford, baseline, good cut by McCullough, nice find by Pettiford.
On the baseline drive, McCullough gave a 45-degree cut from the left wing. And that's just a really smart cut. Rather than just stand on the three-point line and be an outlet for a three, cut right to the rim, and just a terrific pass by Bobby Pettiford.
Kansas fans will remember that Kevin McCullough Jr. rolled his ankle right near the end of the win against Oklahoma State in Stillwater on Tuesday. Had a great game that night. 15 points, 8 assists, and appears to be fine physically here today.
Well, how about the defense by Ernest Uday Jr. out on the perimeter against Keontae George? Wasn't going for fakes, any of the dribble moves that George was making, got his hand on the ball, really disrupted everything.
Foul on McCullough, his first.
You switch off onto a guard and you think it's got to be advantage Baylor. And there's the foul and the block by Uday. But that was after Uday played really good defense on George.
Well, the big Saturday rolls on here on the ESPN family of networks. And coming up next into the ACC, Duke is at Syracuse to take on the Orange. Langston Love at the line, a guy who missed all of last year with a torn ACL, runs it down in the corner, was cleared to go really late September, early October, and by December, January, kind of 100%. And what a valuable guy he is coming off the bench for the Bears.
Well, he was really good in the game against Kansas at Waco. Had 11 points in that game, made some real key plays down the stretch.
With the shot clock running down, Keontae George buries it.
Scott Drew always has that in his pocket. That wasn't a play design. That was just superior offense against good defense.
So more than 10 minutes in, the three guards, the big three, have all 23 points for Baylor.
And now a hold on Flo Thamba. Keontae George has got game. He is a guy that he's an NBA level scorer. He's got deep range, a quick release. He can drive it as well and draw fouls. But one of the things I think Kansas can do is go after him on defense. You have to make him guard.
Three starters have just returned now for Kansas as McCullough misses a corner three. And now in transition, Bridges, the kick. George is open. Thamba had it but lost it.
A good job by McCullough to go after that ball with two hands to knock it away. But KJ Adams on that last offensive play for Kansas. He's so good on that short roll.
Adams, tough catch in traffic, and he draws another foul. Pretty nifty find from DaJuan Harris Jr. as well.
When KJ Adams sets a screen, especially a middle screen, and he rolls to the basket, he can catch it short of getting all the way to the rim. And he's a playmaker there. That was a great pass to Kevin McCullough on the play before. But McCullough is not the best shooter. He's shooting under 30% for three.
So Adams at the line. Well, how about a little Sunday college basketball for you on ESPN and the app? Another big one out of the ACC. North Carolina 0-9 in quad one. They've got an opportunity in Raleigh tomorrow as they take on Terquavion Smith and the Wolfpack, and then Memphis and number 2 Houston, 3 o'clock Eastern tomorrow. Carolina right now the first team out according to Joe Lunardi. The Heels need a quality win. Rivalry game tomorrow in Raleigh.
And that feels like a must-win game for North Carolina. And they're going against a team in NC State that has great guards.
Flagler drives by Wilson and lays it in again.
How about the way he drives it and just kept it in his right hand to avoid that block shot. He is a big-time offensive player.
Dick for 3. And skying for the rebound is Josh Ojanwuna, whose minutes have basically dried up since Jonathan Tchamwa-Tchatchoua returned. But the freshman from Nigeria is a very talented young player.
On the offensive end, it has been 1 and out for Kansas. If they don't score on their first shot, there's not a lot of second shots that have been available due to Baylor's defensive rebounding.
Turnaround by Bridges, wide left, rebound Wilson.
Good contest by Grady Dick defensively.
Passed up the 3, steps in for the 2 and buries it.
That's a great play by Grady Dick. Had the initial shot, just gave a shot fake, and he's such a good pull-up jump shooter.
Well, as I've heard you say often, he's got such shot credibility that they go for that shot fake, and he can step in pretty easily.
And he's countering. I mean, everybody's trying to take that three-point shot away from him, so he gives that shot fake and just counters the defense.
George again, another deep 3.
He's had 10 20-point or better games this season, but the last 2 games he was 3 of 12 from the field. But he's seeing a big basket after a difficult start. He had 4 turnovers to start the game, but he's feeling a little different right now.
Wilson, no. And it'll be Baylor ball. With 7:20 to go in the first half, Baylor up 7. When we come back, something a little different. Not your typical 94 feet, Jay Billis.
Unfortunate, but he lives with a bearded dragon. Yeah. I'd frankly never heard of a bearded dragon. Yeah, are you a lizard person?
Don't mock. My son had 2 bearded dragons. They are lizards. 2 of the 5 pets we had at the time. And I texted with him today. He said the lizards were his favorite, more than the snake, the cat, or the dog.
It sounds like a severe behavioral disorder to me.
They are great pets, very low maintenance, unlike yourself. Cryer with the shot clock at 1. And a shot clock violation on the Bears.
Well, before that possession, Baylor in this game, 11 of 19 from the field. That's 58%. But they are 5 of 7 from 3. And Baylor has 9 second chance points. Those second opportunities have led to open threes for Baylor. And that's the one thing you really fear from Baylor is their ability to knock down threes. And all the points have come from those 3 guards.
Nice 2-man game. And again, Adams going to the line. And again, he's frustrated that he couldn't finish it and just go to the line for 1 more.
KJ Adams does such a good job once he sets a screen of rolling to the basket. He can either roll all the way or he's very good on that short roll. But he got hit hard on that arm. It's hard to finish those.
Yeah.
But, boy, talk about an above-the-rim finisher.
Again, a guy who was, really a role player. 5 minutes per game of the national championship team a year ago. By the way, they're honoring, or they have honored the national championship team from a year ago here today. We'll have more on that a little bit later on. As Scott Drew makes a couple of subs, including Tchamwa-Tchatchoua returning to the game. Christian Brown, Ochai Agbaji, and others here at the Fog.
There are a lot of former Jayhawks in the building. Saw Nick Collison a little bit earlier.
Cole Aldrich is here.
But what a defensive challenge Baylor presents because of these 3 guards. A little staggered screen for George. But they're really looking for that second action, not necessarily the first.
Flagler with McCullough on him. Good job by McCullough to stay in front of him. Now Cryer off the side of the backboard. Kansas ball.
A good job by Grady Dick to play basketball with his chest there.
And a missed layup by Wilson in transition.
Those are deflating misses. You just have to come back and play defense. But they thought they had an easy basket and didn't finish.
And Wilson scoreless in this game as Flagler knocks down a three, and it's still the three guards, Flagler, Cryer, and George, who have scored every single point for Baylor today.
Well, Flagler going up against McCullough, who's long and athletic, but he just set him up and then got that pull-up jump shot. These are big-time jump shooters, these three. Good ball movement.
Wilson, no. And George with the rebound.
Advantage Baylor.
George will finish it in transition.
Bill Self wants a timeout. Baylor is just attacking Kansas
of the best. There are no easy games in the Big 12 this year.
It's a league with no bottom. And these two, I believe, along with Texas, are the three best teams, and they're all title contenders. But when you can score like Baylor, I know people say defense wins championships and you can't win without being able to guard. But when you can score like this, you can overcome some defensive deficiencies.
Wilson, tough one. It won't go, but he does draw the foul. As we take a look now at tonight's Sonic Blockbuster, of course, last year the national champ came from this conference. That's Kansas. The year before, the national champ came from this conference. That's Baylor. They had Texas Tech in the national championship game back in 19, and Kansas and Oklahoma both with recent trips to the Final Four as well. The NCAA Selection Committee did its annual reveal today and had 5 teams in this league as either 1, 2, or 3 seeds. Kansas is a 1, Baylor and Texas is 2s, and Kansas State and Iowa State is 3s.
Well, that's one of the elevating factors, though, of the league is the quote-unquote bottom 5 of the league elevate the league because of how good they've been. I mean, you look at all the non-conference records. I think the Big 12 overall won over 80% of its non-conference games. I mean, they are by far and away the best league in the country by every metric, and it's not close.
Tchamwa Tchatchoua over Adams, no. Dick the rebound.
And Kansas needs to get out in transition. This is a team that's fast from end to end, but they had an opportunity to finish a couple of plays, but other than that, there hasn't been anything in transition.
Grady Dick misses the corner 3.
And one thing, Dan, Kansas doesn't want to do is settle for shots. That was early in the shot clock. I think Kansas wants to attack the paint more. Get the ball from side to side, draw help, and then kick it out.
And you see there a huge story in the game. Kansas 1 for 11 from 3. Baylor 6 for 9. George, tough one off the dribble. Gets the bounce.
Now that was not an offensive set. That was just an offensive play by a great offensive player that is feeling it now. Those 4 turnovers early for George are a distant memory.
And right now the Jayhawks cannot buy one. George again. Oh boy! A chance for a 4-point play.
This looks like a video game. I mean, Baylor's playing a video game out there. What a shot by Keontae George.
Players have attempted.
Well, I wouldn't go away from this game plan. It's working pretty well.
It is.
But oftentimes we'll say, any one of these 3 can go off on you. And all 3 of them have gone off on Kansas.
This is what happens when all 3 are hot.
Baylor's made 8 of 11 from the 3-point line. They're shooting better from 3 than 2. And they've missed 12 shots in this game, but have gotten 6 offensive rebounds off those 12 misses. And 50% offensive rebound rate is going to be hard to beat.
Pettiford around George to lay it in, and that's the first field goal for Kansas in about 4 minutes and 45 seconds.
And they got it from moving the ball from side to side and then attacking. Pettiford's got a great first step, able to turn the corner and get to the lane. But if you attack off the first side against Baylor, you're playing right in the hands of the Baylor defense. You got to make this defense move, make them make some defensive decisions where they can make a mistake.
Cryer for 3. And Adams the rebound as the Jayhawks look for a little momentum before the end of the first half. Harris, second in the conference in assists. Couple of passes. Grady Dick from the elbow. Too strong.
Great rebound.
And then Wilson into the arm of Bridges, took a shot to the nose, and he'll go to the line.
Jalen Wilson, the second leading rebounder in the Big 12, but not known as a great offensive rebounder. L.J. Cryer almost face guarded him. He had two elbows in his chest, but wasn't able to stop him as he came in from the left wing. Just got a run up to crash the glass.
Monday night, two of the top women's teams in the Pac-12 square off at a big one on ESPN2 and the app. Number 3 Stanford, number 16 UCLA. Coverage begins at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific. Question for you.
Stanford plays a beautiful brand of basketball. Cameron Brink is one of the best defenders in the country. She blocked 6 shots the other night.
All right, crowd back into it here. 4 points in a row for Kansas, but still down by 13.
Well, the crowd will help, but unless they can guard George, Cryer, and Flagler, not sure what it's going to do. There's staggered screens along the baseline.
Flagler again. Around and out. Wilson the rebound.
Once you get a stop, you got to follow it up with a score. George is on Adams. He's got an advantage to be able to post him up. George smartly fronting him.
Adams steps out, still 10 to shoot. Now Pettiford. Wilson on the drive.
Good cut.
But Grady Dick couldn't lay it in. An acrobatic attempt by a guy who's one of the better cutters in the college game. Cryer, no, but he draws the foul.
You know, that's a pass that Grady Dick probably should have just brought down and taken out to the other side. That was a high degree of difficulty try when you really needed the bucket and possession, because you miss it, all of a sudden Baylor's out in transition. It's a good pass on a good cut, but that's a tough shot to make. And it took him out of transition defense, and that allowed L.J. Cryer to get into the lane.
And how about Cryer? 49 points in his last 2 games. Had 23 last Saturday against TCU, 26 Monday night against West Virginia. Holly.
The guards of Baylor have just been breathtaking today. All 3 already in double figures. I was talking to the coaching staff about how do they coexist. Only one ball, a lot of guys who want to make shots. They said they're so close off the court. They do everything together. They work out. They have chemistry together. So that chemistry off the court.
9.5 3-pointers per game made. And they're going to have 9 by halftime. And it's just an extraordinary performance. I mean, to put up 42 points, there's still a minute 24 left to go in this first half. But to put up 42 points on Kansas and Allen Fieldhouse, I mean, this is a formidable offensive team, especially these 3 guards.
This team started league play. Granted, it's the Big 12, best league in the country this year. But they started league play 0-3. Lost at Iowa State. Lost at home to TCU by 1. Lost at home to Kansas State in overtime. But they have been almost unbeatable since. Wilson spins and hits. Tough one on the baseline.
Well, that shows his offensive versatility to be able to go into the post. But to your point about the 0-3 start for Baylor, Dan, I mean, they had a lot to replace. Remember, they lost Jeremy Sohan to the draft. Kendall Brown, Matthew Meyer transferred to Illinois, as did Dane Danger. Even though their guards are the same, there are a lot of new players in.
Bridges knocks down a 3. The 9-3 of the half for the Bears.
Every second opportunity, broken play. 9-1 in 3-pointers made. It's not hard to figure out the difference in this game.
Wilson again, and a chance for 3.
The reptile owner slithers to the basket.
I see what you did there.
And just the ball reversal is what does this. Gave a little head and shoulder fake to the middle that was subtle, and that froze Langston Love, and he's just able to drive to the baseline.
Playing at a first-team All-America level, I think just about everybody would agree on that. Zach Edey has been seen as the front-runner for National Player of the Year all season long. Is he a lock, or do Wilson or somebody else have a chance maybe to win that?
Yeah, I mean, there's still a fair amount of time left, and after you go through the conference tournaments, you know, I wouldn't start polishing that trophy in West Lafayette just yet, but he's certainly the front runner. But right now, if things play out the way they have to this point in the season, Jalen Wilson on first-team All-America at 6'8" would be the shortest member of that first-team All-America team. You're talking about nothing but big guys.
Well, let's take a look at your Player of the Year candidates, and to your point, they are all big fellas, all front court guys.
All 6'10" or better, with the exception of Jalen Wilson, but Julius Tubelis leading the Pac-12 in scoring and rebounding. Brandon Miller has been outstanding at 6'9" at Alabama. And I think that's a pretty solid 5 there. There are a couple other players that can work their way in there, but I wouldn't be surprised if we wound up with that 5 at the end.
I guess Miller not really a front court guy. He's just kind of a special talent, a 6'9" guard who can shoot from 3 and having a sensational freshman and no doubt one and done season for Nate Oates in Alabama as Flagler misses at the end of the half. But not a lot went wrong, not a lot to displease Scott Drew in the first half as they knock down 9. Holly, thank you, as we are now ready for the second half of our Sonic blockbuster matchup. To Bill Self's point, to Holly, Grady Dick, Jalen Wilson, they combined for 47 in the first game against Baylor. Although Kansas lost that game, they're just 5 for 18 between them through 20 minutes here today.
I thought a lot of their shots in the first half, Kansas was settled. And now they're trying to get the ball from multiple sides and then be aggressive getting to the rim. And that's an example of it right there from DaJuan Harris. He has to be aggressive. When he's aggressive, Kansas is a different offensive team.
His first points of the game. A look inside, and Bridges misses an easy one.
Well, that looked like something Kansas would have run against Baylor. Bridges moved his defender up the lane.
Wilson with a strong drive. He'll go to the line, and Bill Self has to like the first 42 seconds of the second half.
Well, as Baylor played in the first half, and as poorly as I'm sure Bill Self thought his team played, 13 points is not an insurmountable lead. You get a couple stops, couple scores, get it down under 10 points, and all of a sudden you have a manageable deficit. And things feel a lot different. And we saw a similar thing when Kansas played Oklahoma State here earlier this season. They've been down and have been able to come back in those games.
Yeah, they've had some close wins this year. Right now, they certainly have the look of a potential 1 seed, given the resume they have put together. Interesting, Baylor will host Texas 1 week from today on ESPN. Kansas will go to Austin 2 weeks from today. More huge games still coming in the Big 12. And it's deafening here at the Fog as it's down to 9.
But Baylor can really spread out a defense. Look how spread this defense is, and Flagler can drive it.
Did that so well in the first half. Tough turnaround won't go. Rebound Wilson. Harris back to Wilson.
Scott Drew's going to want a timeout here.
He sure does. 6-0 run Kansas to open the second half. It sounds like they might blow the roof off this place right now. Found double digits in Carolina, the national championship game, winning KU's 4th NCAA championship, 6th national championship. And they've come up with the loose ball, and boy, has this game changed in the last couple of minutes.
It's really well guarded on that middle ball screen action. We're seeing a different Kansas team in this second half.
Another offensive rebound. And finally, on the 4th attempt, Grady Dick with a putback, and it's a 5-point game.
Nobody blocked out Grady Dick coming in from that left wing.
Kansas had as many offensive rebounds on that trip as they had the entire game.
We're seeing a much more focused defensive team in the second half.
Wow, George with about a 27-foot attempt, and Thamba is fouled on the follow.
Flo Thamba grabbed that rebound in traffic. But Jalen Wilson misses this little stick back, and Grady Dick came in from the left wing. Nobody there to block him out, had a clear path to tip it in.
Let's go to Holly.
Well, Scott Drew called that early timeout here in the second half, concerned about how his team started. He told them in the huddle, why are are we not playing with the same energy? Guys, you were so good in the first half. Let's get it back. He said, listen, I'm going to sub out anybody who is not playing hard, not playing the way we need to right now. He wants them to recapture that mojo they had, that momentum in the first half.
I mean, you can't imagine, Jay, that a team as good and experienced as the Bears are would ever think it's over at halftime. You can never think that in this building.
No, I don't think they thought it was over, but having that same intensity where you're knocking down 9 threes, that has to be a flop.
McCullough inside and a foul going against the Bears.
Kansas doing a much better job of trying to get a piece of the paint, whether it's off the drive or passing the ball into the lane to somebody posting up. You know, that's where Kansas is going to have much more success. When they're attacking the paint, drawing help, then maybe they can kick it out to an open three-point shooter. But Kansas is a team that shoots a lot of free throws as well. And they didn't shoot a ton of them in the first half because they weren't aggressive against this Baylor defense.
Again, a nice doubleheader coming your way tomorrow on ESPN and the app. It starts at the ACC at Raleigh. In-state rivals, the Wolfpack and the Tar Heels. Carolina looking for a big win. They'll have a chance on the road, but the Wolfpack having a terrific year. And then Memphis and the number 2 team in the nation, Houston, 3 o'clock tomorrow. If Houston wins that game, Jay, they will likely be number 1 when the new poll comes out on Monday, with Alabama having lost to Tennessee midweek. It's a 10-0 run this half for Kansas.
This is a toughness possession for Baylor. You got to stem the tide by scoring.
Flagler will go to the line for 2.
McCullough got picked off by a screen out top. Flagler so good with the ball getting downhill. He had 5 assists in that first half. Just got a little screen. He got picked off. The angle went to Flagler, and McCullough had to try to catch up and wound up fouling him.
Met his dad during halftime. He says, what an example of a guy who started off at a low or mid-major Presbyterian, transfers up, if you will, and now in his 3rd year in Waco. What a 3 years it has been for him in this program.
Well, Adam Flagler is a big-time 3-level scorer. Got a great floater, step back. And you mentioned he went to Presbyterian. Do you know what the nickname of Presbyterian is?
Blue Hens.
The Blue Hose.
Oh! Is that
the Blue Hens?
Do I get
Blue Hens
is Delaware? Do I get half points?
No.
Tough judge.
I mean, if you were playing Jeopardy, Alex Trebek would have said,
that's
no,
true.
I'm sorry.
I hear the buzzer. That's true.
Good
nice
pass.
McCullough. Adams had it and finds McCullough. A fresh possession for Kansas. Dick steals it, knocks it away. And Harris gets fouled. Great hustle by Grady Dick.
Yeah, you wonder if that's some sort of... I mean, that wasn't a play on the ball. That was just a grab from behind to stop the bucket. Grady Dick got going a little bit too fast to the basket, but smart enough to knock this ball away. But watch when Harris gets the ball. He just gets grabbed there. That wasn't a play on the ball. But I guess not enough to warrant an F1.
Harris scoops it up off the glass, but it won't go, and Lohner down with the rebound for Baylor.
Tough shot over Jonathan Chamwa-Chachua, and that's the difference he can make. Mobility to get to the basket and to challenge that shot to make DaJuan Harris put it up at a different angle. Look how far out that Baylor's having to start its offense.
Yeah, the whole intensity level of the Jayhawks is at a different level here in the second half. Pryor the kick. And a corner 3 not there for Langston Love. Kansas ball.
Boy, what a great rebound by Jalen Wilson. He can rip and run, grab the rebound and bring it up himself. Doesn't have to outlet it.
Second in the conference in rebounding. It's better than 8 a game. And a push underneath. I think they get Flagler for pushing on Adams as we step aside. Well, some of these Kansas players come by their abilities honestly. They get it from mom more.
And enjoy the moment. I mean, this is incredible to be able to play in a space like this, to have all of these fans. Do it. Don't forget it.
Beautiful. Live in the moment. All right. Well, there's a good moment on cue. KJ gets the score. Let's go to Norman. Grady is having a terrific freshman season. with Jalen, I know you and his dad decided that you would each take an area of his game to teach him. You were a post player. Tell us what you taught him about the post.
I for sure taught him the up and under move. That was my signature move, and I controlled the post, and then his dad controlled the guard, position. So I think he's doing well at that today. We'll see how it ends.
Meanwhile, it's gotten even louder. Holly, thank you. That is great stuff with the moms of 3 Kansas players. Jay, they were down 13 at halftime. It's down to 2.
Well, Kansas has been getting to the free throw line, and they're now attacking the paint. Isolating Jalen Wilson in the low post. He passed it back out. They reversed it. DaJuan Harris was wide open in the corner. That's a great 3.
Love picked up his dribble and turns it over. Dick for the lead. What an unbelievable turnaround here in the first 5.5 minutes of the second half. To 4 here in the second half. Allen Fieldhouse is alive. If Baylor's players were able to hear Scott Drew in the huddle, what do you think the message might have been?
Well, they got to calm down a little bit and slow down on offense because they've turned the ball over. They're getting deeper into the clock. They haven't had any offensive rebound opportunities because they don't know where the shots are coming from. But right now, you just have to be resolute to run your stuff. And that includes running through your cuts. This is a physical basketball game. But the pressure on the ball has been excellent.
Pryor short. Harris for Kansas. Ahead to Adams. And the beat rolls on for the Jayhawks.
Kansas has been so quick to the ball, not just in their initial defense, but going after the defensive rebound. Great help by K.J. Adams.
And a strong drive and a finish for Adam Flagler. Boy, do the Bears need that.
Yeah, and he got hit on that, too. There was no call.
That is just the second made field goal of the second half for Baylor.
And Kansas doing a good job of moving the ball from side to side. And Jalen Wilson saying, hey, get out of here. I'm going one-on-one against Adam Flagler.
Harris for 3. Yes! His second of the half.
You can't just let DaJuan Harris, you can't just dare him to shoot. The Baylor defense just said, go ahead, and he took advantage of it. But Kevin McCullough doing a nice job on Adam Flagler. He's right with him on those cuts.
And a chance for 3 now for Jonathan Chachua, as that'll stem the tide at least for a moment and quiet the crowd a bit.
Baylor's offense was pushed so far out on the floor. That was a 40-foot pass, and Grady Dick just a little bit late rotating over to try to pick that off or discourage it.
Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year a year ago. Again, missed almost a full year, 358 days from the knee and leg injury before he returned a couple of weeks ago. Harris finds Grady Dick in transition for the alley-oop. Boy, it's a whole different ballgame for Kansas here in the second half at the offensive end.
Well, Baylor came with full court pressure, and Kansas broke it to score. Struggled initially to get the ball in, but once DaJuan Harris got it, he came straight downhill at the basket, through the defense, and lobbed it up to Grady Dick. Just a great play in transition. Attacking full court pressure to score. You attack pressure at the point it's applied. All of a sudden, you have an advantage situation. Little juke move, you help up, it's over.
And Harris, who is second in the conference in assists per game, has 8 already in this game today.
We're 1-3-1 right now. You can throw over the top.
You like the change, though, just to try to slow them down?
Ultimately, they'll go to man out of it, but right now, Baylor's not able to stop anything. I mean, Kansas has to keep attacking the paint. That was about as easy as you can get.
All 10 of Harris's points here in the second half. And another travel, this time on Flagler. If you prefer to attend the events, tickets are on sale at Big12Sports.com/buy-tickets. I'd love to know what Bill Self said at halftime, but whatever it was, his team has come out of the gate on fire in the second half. They have outscored the Bears 27-9 in the second half.
Well, I'm sure one of the things he said was whoever that was in the first half wearing Kansas uniforms, it wasn't us. And in the second half, you're seeing more what Kansas wants to be as a basketball team. They have been excellent, especially on the defensive end.
A putback for Jalen Wilson. They're shooting better, rebounding better, defending better.
There's just more fight.
Yep.
I mean, the word you can apply to Kansas in the second half has been fight. And Kansas has more field goals in the first 8.5 minutes of the second half than they had in the entire first half.
And another turnover by the Bears. Harris spins it up and in. They can't miss.
It's amazing what aggressiveness does to the results. That was an aggressive play in transition by DaJuan Harris.
And John Higgins, who was over near the Baylor bench, blew the whistle. I don't know.
Wet spot over there.
Yeah, I think you're right. And Scott Drew was saying, like, my man was getting fouled there.
Man was getting fouled going to the basket. But watch DaJuan Harris here. Baylor player slips, and Harris takes advantage of it. Goes right into the body of Keontae George. And Scott Drew not happy about the slip. Probably not happy about Jonathan Chacho when he slipped to the basket. Looked like he had a bucket or a foul or both. Well, that's just one of those things. They had to clean up that wet spot, and Scott Drew is really unhappy about it.
Now a Kansas foul away from the ball. You know, Kansas was down in Stillwater Tuesday night against the Cowboys and came back and won by 11 in spite of the fact McCullough turned his ankle, Harris turned his ankle. They found a way to win it. In the locker room after the game, Bill Self said, and the KU, they have put this out themselves on social media. Bill Self said, you know, guys, I know sometimes I tell you you're soft, he said, but you're not. You earned every bit of that win, and he's got to be feeling the same way about his team right now.
No, this is a tough basketball team.
Boy, that ball hit the court before finally it bounced over to Wilson.
Some old school coaches say that's the perfect rebound. Everybody blocking out and the ball just bouncing there. I don't think it's perfect.
Wilson. He is taken over in the second half.
Well, he's taking over because now the ball is moving. Moves from side to side, then back. And Wilson attacks the closeout on ball reversal. It is much more difficult to defend on a ball reversal. And then you jump up, throw it back, and all of a sudden he's got Bridges leaning the other way, and he's able to take it baseline, get the score.
He's already got his 9th double-double of the season. That leads the Big 12.
Boy, what a turnaround this has been for Kansas.
George steps into a three. It won't go.
And no more offensive rebounds for Baylor. Kansas has been outstanding on the glass. They are finishing their defensive possessions with a defensive rebound.
Jay, they've outscored them by 25 points in the second half. In 10 minutes and a few seconds, they're plus 25 in the second half.
Boy, what a great pin-in screen by DaJuan Harris to free up Grady Dick for that open three. He just missed it. That was good action.
Flagler into the paint and fouled by Grady Dick.
His eyes lit up as soon as he had Grady Dick switch off onto him. And I think that's something that Baylor's going to want to do at every opportunity when they get that matchup. Drive it.
Adams will sit. Uday is back in. McCullough is going to return. And Grady Dick will head to the bench. And it'll stay with the Bears.
Ernest Uday he's long-armed, but his hands are so good. He gets so many deflections. I can't remember which game I was at. Maybe it was a Texas game. He just knocked the ball out of the hands of a ball handler. I mean, his hands are really active on the defensive end.
Gives them a little more size at the 5 spot when he takes over for Adams. And Uday down with a rebound. Good block out on Chamo Chachua.
And these threes that Baylor are taking in the second half, they are all contested.
They haven't made one in the second half. 0 for 6. Meanwhile, I got a stat for you. Kansas turned it over on the first possession of the game. They haven't turned it over since. Wilson. Uday tried to save it, but he's out of bounds.
Well, that was a good pass out of the post by Ernest Uday. He probably could have kept it and gotten to the basket, but he got a wide open 3 for Jalen Wilson. That's a good shot. They just didn't knock it down.
Bill Self goes to his bench as Pettiford comes back into the game.
I don't think Kansas has settled for any shot. They've gotten the shot they want just about every time down. Now it's up to Baylor. They cannot settle for jump shots.
Bridges drives in and got fouled. And both players are down. Bridges okay. Wilson needs a little help getting up.
That was a good drive by Jalen Bridges. On the ball reversal, just drove the slot. 45-degree angle, had the angle on his defender, Jalen Wilson. And they go to the free throw line as a result.
Bridges had a good game against the Jayhawks in the Baylor win down in Waco a few weeks ago. 11 points, 9 rebounds.
3 steals as well.
Next game coming up. Up to Syracuse as Judah Vince of the Orange will take on Duke. Always a big crowd up in central New York when the Blue Devils are there. Syracuse playing better, but they've still got a lot of work to do if they want to get into the conversation. A win today would help.
As one of our colleagues likes to say, the Harvard of central New York.
Of which colleague are you speaking?
Sean McDonough.
Our friend Mr. McDonough. 11-point lead for Kansas.
Good ball movement. That ball movement from side to side really moves the Baylor defense.
Yep. Hopped a little before he got rid of it. And just the second turnover of the game. Again, the first one since the opening possession.
Turnovers have doubled. That's a remarkable stat. What was it, like 13 or 14 assists to 1 turnover before that one?
Yep. 13 assists, 2 turnovers for Kansas. And again, they have outscored Baylor by 24 here in the second half.
Look at that recovery. Ernest Uday hedges out near the beak of the Jayhawk near midcourt and still recovers with that length to knock the ball away. There's the hedge, the pass out, and the recovery. That would have been, against a lesser defender, an easy basket for Baylor.
A huge bucket for the Bears. Keontae George makes it an 8-point game.
And you don't have to worry about Keontae George. If he gets a 2 cutting to the basket, fine. You can't let him have an open 3.
Third highest scoring freshman in the nation. Future first-round pick. Probably a lottery pick if you look at mock drafts. McCullough on the cut, and he's fouled.
Good cut by Kevin McCullough. He is an excellent cutter out of that corner. Doesn't just stand there waiting for a 3. When the defense turns its head, he cuts right to the basket to make himself a victory,
if you will, for the Jayhawks with his name and number on the back.
Played his senior year with the great JoJo White for Ted Owens. In 1966, they lost to Texas Western that went on to Don Haskins' team that went on to win the national championship. But you come to this place and you talk about all the amazing Hall of Famers, 21 Naismith Hall of Famers for Kansas. And you always think of the great Ted Owens, one of the finest gentlemen in the history of this game.
Read some quotes from Walt Wesley earlier today as Thamba is fouled and will head to the line. And Wesley grew up in Florida, but the opportunity that presented himself to him wasn't in the Southeast. It was here in the Midwest. He came to Lawrence, and again, a big part of integration of college basketball back in the 60s.
Aaron Zude was helping out there. And look, I think these are largely really good decisions. I mean, Flo Thamba wound up being wide open in the paint. But you really want to shut off these guards. Keontae George, L.J. Cryer, Adam Flagler. Make somebody else beat you. And even if Thamba makes these free throws, gets a score, it's a 2. You know, you're shutting off the threes, and that's really the issue, because the three-point line is what really crushed Kansas in that first half with 9 made threes for this Baylor team.
So those 3 guards you mentioned, they had 42 points in the first half. They have combined for only 7 here in the second half. Harris up top. He's as good at throwing a lob as there is in the college game, and Uday happy to finish it.
Well, Kansas trying to run action out of the middle of the floor. It eliminates help. Uday sets that screen, then rolls hard to the basket. You just lob it up to him.
Tough drive and finish at the other end for Flagler.
Flagler's such a good driver, and that's where it's hard to do, but McCullough just has to make him finish it. Make him finish it over you. As soon as you bring that arm down, you bring a foul into play, and he winds up banking it anyway. Watch this middle ball screen. Screen, rescreen, and there's no help because everybody hugging up to shooters out on the perimeter. You run action in the middle of the floor. I don't think Kansas can run enough middle ball screens in that middle third of the floor.
Meanwhile, McCullough to the bench. That was his 4th foul. So Bill Self loses the services of a terrific defensive player with 7:04 to go. How long he's out remains to be seen, but he's out right now.
And an outstanding rebounder. Kevin McCullough is 4th in the Big 12 in rebounding, 7.5 a game, and he's 2nd in steals. And he can switch off and guard a guard.
Again, a huge difference between what these guards did in the first half for Baylor, what they've been able to do in the second half. Give the Jayhawks a lot of credit. They came out with a much different mindset and energy level in the second half.
Kansas wants to continue to run its offense with pace. This side-to-side action has been very good for the Jayhawks. Wide open with the pin in.
Dick misses the 3. George the rebound.
Just a little fade screen from Jalen Wilson. You're not going to get a more wide open shot.
I'll tell you, in some ways, Baylor's a little fortunate. Grady Dick has missed some shots that he normally hits. He saves it in bounds.
Good job by Grady Dick to put pressure on the shot without fouling.
Harris looks off the defender. Kicks it to Wilson, who couldn't handle it cleanly.
Baylor's not impacting the ball on defense. They're just not pressure on the ball. Kansas able to comfortably make whatever pass they want.
And Wilson on the drive gets fouled by Thamba.
They got Flo Thamba to switch off, and he went right into his body to pick up the foul. And that put Kansas on the line for 1-1. And Kansas has shot a ton of free throws in this game relative to Baylor.
Holly?
You guys were talking to Coach Self today on game day about what's different with Jalen Wilson this year, and he talked about his focus, but I'm going to throw in also leadership. I was in the last Jayhawks huddle, and Jalen Wilson is the guy talking in those huddles. Outside of Bill Self, it's Jalen's voice. They don't score anymore. Let's go. Let's finish this off. He has taken on a leadership role I haven't seen from him before, and it was noticeable in that last huddle.
Well, it seems like over this Bill Self era, Jay, there are always guys who can step up into a larger role. Somebody else moves on, and somebody goes from being a good player to a great player, and in many cases, as Holly said, a leader as well.
Well, just because you're a role player with older players on the team doesn't mean you're not capable of more. And Jalen Wilson has taken this team over in his junior year.
There's another guy who stepped up year to year, didn't he? Ochai Agbaji. Don't know if that last shot is the one Scott Drew wanted. And Keontae George could make that, but that was a very tough attempt. Harris. And that'll go in. And DaJuan Harris continues to put up points. He's got 14 now.
And that was not an easy shot. That little Nash dribble under the basket. And he had to make that fading away.
By the way, Kansas 11-0 this year when Harris scores in double figures.
A lot of contact, no foul. The foul was after the shot. But Harris open along the baseline. I thought he was going to Nash dribble out, and he just turned around off 1 foot and shot it over L.J. Cryer. That is a degree of difficulty shot. And after that foul, K.J. Adams going to the line for yet more free throws for Kansas. Free throw line has been a big factor in this game.
Kansas 19 out of 23 from the line. Remember when Kansas played down in Waco a few weeks ago, it was just a couple of games after DaJuan Harris Jr. took a really hard fall at the end of the Kansas State game. And as you well know, Jay, it took him 3 or 4 games to kind of look like himself again. He looks like himself again.
And nobody really knew sort of, hey, what's going on? Why does he not look like himself? He wasn't in the concussion protocol. But there had to be a few cobwebs in there because he snapped out of it, and he's been the DaJuan Harris that everyone expects. He's just a great leader, excellent defender, great passer, and makes key plays down the stretch of games. Boy, who saw this coming? I mean, down 13 at halftime, up 14 in the second half. You're a math guy. This is a 27-point swing, right?
Correct. Make it 25. On the fly. See what I did there?
That's you're excellent. That Canadian education system, outstanding.
Thank you. The most efficient offensive team in the nation, Baylor, has scored only 18 points in the second half.
Well, Kansas's defense has been totally different in the second half than it was in the first. The ball pressure, excellent. But Baylor hasn't gotten near the ball pressure. Good pass.
Pettiford. Yes. K.J. Adams with the assist.
Now that's the playmaking ability of K.J. Adams on those short rolls. A lot of big guys walk with it when they catch it like that, but he can make a play after making that catch.
George left it short. Pettiford in transition. Adams lays it in.
Baylor just does not have an answer for this Kansas onslaught in the second half. What an impressive answer by the Jayhawks after taking some haymakers in the first half.
Turnaround Cryer. But still a 15-point lead and under 4 to go.
And still a tough 2. Now Kansas has basically shut off the three-point line for Baylor in the second half.
Baylor has won 2 in a row against Kansas down in Waco earlier this season. In the second matchup between the two last year, the Jayhawks intent on not letting that streak go to 3.
Wilson has Cryer on him, trying to post him up.
Dick has it poked away by Tchamwa Tchatchoua, and Baylor in transition. Cryer around Adams, followed by Bridges.
Boy, what a move by L.J. Cryer. You go to try to block that shot. It opens up the offensive glass for Bridges. That's a couple stops in a row for Baylor, but they got to string even more together. They're running out of time.
Yeah, Kansas can afford to be a little bit patient here. Under 3 to go. Pettiford some good minutes off the bench today.
Good fake.
And Harris's pass goes into the backcourt. That'll be an over and back for the Jayhawks. A stoppage with 2:37 to go. What a second half for the Kansas Jayhawks.
How do you make that pass?
ESPN's exclusive presentation of
made 16 shots in the first half. They were 16 of 31. In the second half, against this ratcheted up Kansas defense and ball pressure, Baylor has made 8 field goals.
Cryer no. Dick the rebound and he's fouled.
Now he'll go shoot free throws. And Grady Dick, an outstanding free throw shooter, shoots 84% from 3. But this second half has been dominant by Kansas, and I think it was set up with the defensive pressure.
And they actually showed some signs of that at the end of the first half. They finished the first half well, but as soon as they returned to the court in the second half, they looked like an entirely different bunch at both ends of the floor.
Maybe they had Uncrustables at halftime.
Thanks for taking the last one in our room. 13-point lead.
We were talking about this recently. Why they have oranges at halftime? Everybody has sliced oranges.
Energy. Vitamin C. Why not have an Uncrustable?
Well, I just never. Why oranges? You know, they think we had scurvy.
23 out of 27 from the line for Kansas. Big advantage.
Well, whatever Kansas had at halftime, that happens before the game.
That's right.
No second shots in this second half for Baylor.
Baylor had come in here hot, as we mentioned. They had won 4 in a row, 10 out of 11. They'd have been playing about as well as anybody in the country coming into this game.
Right now for Kansas, it's a late game situation. No threes, no fouls. Don't want to stop the clock. And what a block.
How about that? I think Bill Self's okay with that.
Well, that was good by Grady Dick. He got beat on the drive, but he was smart enough not to foul, and that allowed K.J. Adams to come over and wipe that away. If he fouls here, you know, you got Bridges going to the line. Instead, K.J. Adams eliminates the possibility of a bucket. But with 2 minutes to go, there's not enough time to win this game with twos.
Shot clock running down. Flagler's 3 rattles out. And it's Kansas ball.
So you know Baylor's going to come with full court pressure. So inbounding the ball, possession more important than position. And just be strong with it because they're coming after it.
They get it over and set it up. And another rousing ovation here at the Pod.
Well, and I think in the locker room after the game, Bill Self is going to be praising Kansas's toughness again. It's been a tough 20 minutes in the second half.
52 points in the second half for the Jayhawks. Chachua.
Chachua with that middle screen action and rolling hard to the basket, but again, it's just a 2.
And again, the clock is their ally. No need to rush. By the way, quick turnaround for Kansas. They are at TCU Monday night on ESPN. TCU got Mike Miles back today, and they blew out Oklahoma State 100-75. Corner 3. McCullough with the exclamation point of the afternoon.
This has been a clinic in the second half for Kansas. An absolute clinic.
Inside the final minute, Kansas will go to 22-5, 10-4 in the league. Baylor will fall to 20-7, 9-5 in the league. A game back of both the Jayhawks and the Texas Longhorns.
Well, you can't say enough about the toughness of this Kansas team in the second half. Down 13 at halftime, and yet in the second half, they're going to win this thing going away. And they just shut Baylor off completely in the second half.
And with the shot clock turned off now, they can walk off the final seconds of the game, and they have earned every bit of this W here this afternoon. Could have chosen a number of guys, but tonight's player of the game brought to you by Phillips 66, DaJuan Harris, who had a spectacular second half. Bill Self's going to be awfully proud of his guys.